Let me show you first how we're tracking these results. This is the Kentucky Secretary of State website here. As you can see, a lot of different districts we can look at here. You can open and close these, show you the percentages here, as well as a map can kind of illustrate what's going on throughout the night. As for how the balance of power stands right now, let's take a look at the House of Representatives. There's 63 Republican seats right now. The Democrats would need to flip 4 of those in order to break the supermajority. When you're trying to gain trust, some people will point back to the last session, the sewer bill and the way that was passed,
sure,
as well as even voting out some of the rules this
and I had a
session.
problem last year with how the pension bill came out last year. I was a no vote.
We've been looking at this all night, keeping tally. In terms of flips, things have been even so far. We've seen 3 on the Republican side of things, as well as 3 gains for the Democrats. So things look like they're holding pretty steady in terms of the supermajority. The Senate is also being held by the Republicans. That was found out pretty early, no surprise there. But let's take a look at some of those notable flips. Well, the stop sign definitely tells you that this place isn't open, but there's also this sign here which reads that a lapse in federal appropriations is causing the site to be closed right now. A country debating, government fighting with itself.
Lincoln-Douglas debate, signing of the Emancipation Proclamation.
By no means does it compare to the evils of slavery or the turmoil of the Civil War, but a political fight now in 2018, with some irony, has shut the doors to the birthplace of a man who united the country at its most divided.
It's interesting to learn the various ways he brought different people from different backgrounds with different opinions together.
In the crosshairs of the government shutdown, the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, a national park, now closed until further notice.
We are on a road trip coming down from Baltimore, Maryland.
Royce Jeffrey got to check out some still accessible trails, but says the shutdown experience was not what he expected.
A very eerie feeling, almost post-apocalyptic in a sense, but it also gives a feeling of how maybe it was when Lincoln was growing up.
But just about 3 miles down the road,
we're open 7 days a week.
In Hodgenville, many that depend on the tourism draw are still hoping people will stop by.
In terms of the impact, well, more than likely, it's going to be visitors who are upset that they can't visit the birthplace.
Assistant Director Rob Thurman says the nonprofit Lincoln Museum isn't owned by the government, and those there can tell you what you can see at the site during the shutdown. But one look at Lincoln National Bank, Abe 93.7, and it's clear the National Park Service estimated $20 million economic impact. With a face like this, is something the town would miss dearly. So even those just stopping by remain hopeful the government will soon get back to work.
The important thing to remember is everybody's American and to stay united that way.
You can learn how other parks are affected in this story at wave3.com. Hemp at the Farmington Industrial Research pilot plot is ready for harvest.
The more uses we can find for it, the more viable it will be for Kentucky farmers to grow.
Those at the plantation say a lot of people have stopped in to see the crop, one Kentucky once led the nation in production of. The hemp stalks here now well over my head. They were the primary part of the product used over a century ago. Now, uses are shifting towards the leaf and seeds of the plant. The research pilot program is the only way people can legally grow hemp in Kentucky, keeping it under certain THC levels so it doesn't acquire the psychoactive properties of its illicit cousin, marijuana.
Some different places had to burn what they were growing because it was just a little bit over the acceptable level.
That hasn't stopped growth from just 14 pilot counties and 20 approved growers in 2014 to now 73 counties and 210 growers.
I credit this with changing my life.
The state ag department says retailers and processors now using 61% of it for CBD products.
The great thing about this is you can put it in a bath.
From bath bombs to oils, ice cream, and even a Louisville company incorporating it into cola. Some say it helps them with anxiety, pain, or other problems. But business is booming.
We opened about a month ago, and we cannot keep up.
Something legal experts say may only grow as the pending 2018 federal farm bill would help legalize hemp production nationwide.
Which we all expect it to pass this fall, then there's going to be more growth.
A so-called green rush that prospectors are beginning to explore across the Commonwealth. This flag at the American Printing House for the Blind is at half staff. Inside, Gary Mudd is among those thinking about the reasons why that's important to him.
It helps us be employed, educated, to get all the opportunities and rights that other people in society get.
That's because President George H.W. Bush signed the Americans with Disabilities Act into law.
As recently as 1991, there was not access.
Civil rights advocates say the law prohibits discrimination based on disability and imposes some accessibility requirements to public and private places. Mudd says that action displays a time when the government took the moral lead in the face of a serious ethical gap.
And that is to be a kinder, gentler society. At least that's when he was president.
Mudd admits work is still needed to foster that kinder society. But he was in the crowd Monday when government leaders say they were doing just that.
So this is obviously a compassionate value.
Mayor Greg Fisher teaming up with those from the Print House to announce that an app aimed at including people who are blind or visually impaired now maps out Metro Hall. Nearby Explorer allows people to navigate and interact with surroundings via verbal cues.
Top of stairs 7 yards southeast.
An act by those in government similar to that of George H.W. Bush, with the hopes of being accessible and open to all.
This beautiful building belongs to everybody. It's the living room for the community, and everyone should be able to experience it.
Shelton McElroy has pushed for political change before. Affordable housing and public health among the topics he's tackled. But on Election Day, McElroy didn't vote, but not because he didn't want to.
It's demoralizing. It's humiliating.
As a felon in Kentucky, McElroy lost his right to vote.
At 18 years old, made a impulsive decision to sell marijuana and was held accountable for that. Did my time.
Time, he says, should have restored his rights.
Entire families are disenfranchised when you disenfranchise the head of a household.
Some in Frankfort agree. State Senator Morgan McGarvey says he's part of a bipartisan effort to restore voting rights to felons once they complete parole and probation.
There's a constitutional lifetime ban on you being able to have a voice in your community. We think that's wrong.
McGarvey says those who commit rape and murder would most likely not get those voting rights back. Still, it's an idea that doesn't sit well with Catherine Nichols, whose brother Jim Duckett was murdered 10 years ago in Shelbyville.
I'm the one that found my brother. This is why I do this.
She says that even if the law just gave rights to nonviolent offenders, some who fall under that category, she says, have pled down for more violent offenses. She says like murder pled down to reckless homicide.
You took someone's life. You took their voting rights. You took everything from them. So you have not paid your dues.
Nichols says even crimes outside of murder have victims. So still, those dues may not be paid. While others argue some of the laws, like ones related to marijuana, are already beginning to change. Applause from public workers still in the gallery. Republican leadership back in session after meeting with Governor Bevin and a decision to end the special session without a pension fix.
They came back and attempted to fix this before the downgrades come, before this problem is exacerbated. They came up short.
Asked if he thought the 24-hour special session was a waste of time or money, Bevin says it wasn't.
And I would do it again in a heartbeat, and they would come and attempt to do it again.
Democratic leadership calling the plans eventually put forward, which looked a lot like last session's Senate Bill 151, unpopular.
Speaker is really looking for excuses of why he can't pull his caucus together and get the votes that he needs.
Speaker David Osborne disagreeing, saying that the decision was about needing more time on a big issue.
I think it was just a matter of the fact that we are in the confines of a 5-day session.
He added House members were ready to vote on the bill, but they did have some issues with the version they found, working with the governor's office after being called into session from him in short notice.
It caused them a great deal of consternation to come in here yesterday, to see the bills last night, when we finally got to see them and see that they were not what they expected.
The governor downplayed his role in pushing a particular bill and called the discussion with leadership amicable. He did say it was a sad day, though, and opposition on the floor had a similar feeling about the special session, too, but for different reasons.
There's never been anything done in this chamber like was done last night.